ถูกไหมอาจารย์อันนี้หรือเปล่า
โอเค
ถูกต้องครับ
ครับ
โอเคครับ
ถูกนะครับถูกต้องครับอาจารย์
อ่าเป็นอันนี้น่าจะเล็กเกิน
ครับครับ
แบบนี้ดีกว่ามันจะไม่เล็ก
ครับ
ตอนนี้นิสิตก็เจ็ดสิบเจ็ดก็น่าจะถึงเวลาแล้วอาจารย์ถ้าอาจารย์พร้อมก็เรียนเชิญอาจารย์
ตอนนี้เริ่มเลยใช่ไหมท่านอาจารย์
เริ่ม
ครั
เล
บ
ยได้อาจารย์
โอเคครับครับ Good morning. May I pay my respect to the Buddhist monk, ท่านอาจารย์ ladies and gentlemen, my dear students. I am very delighted to be here and to have this opportunity to talk to you about the major issue that is the brain and mindfulness meditation. This subject is rather complicated, so I would like to start with something that most of you are very familiar with. So I would like to start with the meaning of mindfulness. As everybody knows, mindfulness is usually translated in Thai as sati. The word sati derives from a root meaning to remember, but as a mental factor or cetasika, it signifies presence of mind and observation at the present, rather than the faculty of memory regarding the past, the present, rather than the faculty of memory regarding the past or imagination to the future. Sati has the characteristic of non-superficiality. In Bali, we use the term apila panata lakhana. That is not wobbling, not floating away from the object, or not floating on the surface. Sati is not superficial awareness. It is a full awareness and thorough. It is deep and thorough awareness of the object, any kinds of object. For example, when you practice insight meditation or vipassana meditation, you may use the rising and the falling of the abdomen as a major object. And the major objects concerning two things, rupa and nama, or nama rupa. You see, when you observe the rising and the falling of the abdomen, the rising and falling of the abdomen belong to rupa. But the mind that observes the rising and the falling of the abdomen belongs to nama. So you have both nama and rupa at the same time. So you have to be able to develop a deep and thorough awareness of the rising and falling of the abdomen. In the commentary, the teacher gives an example of the pumpkin. You know the pumpkin. Yeah, the pumpkin, when it is very fresh, it's very heavy. If you put the fresh pumpkin into the water, so usually the pumpkin will fall down, and then it go down and down to the bottom of the water. maybe the pond, the well, or the canal or the river or something like that. And then the heavy pumpkin will fall down to the bottom, to the ground of the pond or the river or of the canal, and it's fixed over there. In the same manner, you see, if you put a stone or a piece of iron into the water, the stone or a piece of iron is heavy. It will sink, go down and down and down towards to the bottom of the well of the canal of the river, and it's fixed over there, not movable. This is the characteristic of we call non-superficiality. Yeah, apila panata. Yeah, not non-superficiality. Yeah. On the contrary, if you have the same pumpkin and you dry the pumpkin in the heat sun for 1 week, and then the pumpkin will become chinken, and then it become very lighter, and then you throw the dry pumpkin into the water. What happened? The pumpkin does not sink down. It just float around, okay? It move up and down, go to the right, go to the left, no different direction. It does not sink down into the bottom and fix to the bottom. So the light pumpkin does not have what we call non-superficiality. Dry pumpkin has superficiality. It does not sink down. It just float up and down, float up and down. No definite direction. Okay, that is what we call apalapanata. Yeah, non-superficiality. Yeah, and then the other one is we call the function. The function rasa in Pali is the absence of confusion or non-forgetfulness. Asam mosa rasa. Asam mosa rasa. Rasa means function. This means that the noting and the observing mind should neither lose sight of nor miss nor forget nor allow the object of observation to disappear. And then we come to the third function. The third function of sati is manifestation. When we talk about manifestation, there are two kinds of manifestation, namely, come face to face with the object. In Bali, we use the term Visaya Pimukha Bhava Pachupatthana. And the other one we call protection. Protection means Arakha Pachupatthana. Arakha means protection. Yeah, okay. And then, so when you are observing the rising movement of the abdomen, if the mind is ready face to face with the rising movement, you will notice different sensations in the rising, such as tension, pressure, heat, coolness, or particularly movement. Visaya Pimukha Bhava Pachupatthana. If the noting, observing mind remains face to face with the object of observation for a significant period of time, the practitioner or the yogi can observe a great purity of mind due to the absence of mental defilement or kilesa. So sati has one main function, means protection or guardianship. So it protects the mind from the attack by kilesa, mental defilement. We call protection of mental defilement. When sati is present, mental defilement have no chance to enter the streams of consciousness. Sati is like a guard or a doorkeeper at the sixth sense door, namely the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, okay, the bodily contact, and even the mind itself. It approximates cause of patthana, are strong perception, thira sanya, or four foundation of mindfulness. It is necessary to develop a strong perception so that mindfulness will be firm, strong, and steadfast. Mindfulness itself is the cause of mindfulness. In fact, mindfulness leads to ever greater and stronger mindfulness. It's a kind of a continuous momentum from one moment of mindfulness, causing the next unbroken continuity of mindfulness. It's going on and on like this. So mindfulness is the cause of mindfulness. Okay, mindfulness or sati should leap forward onto the object, covering it completely, penetrating into it, and not missing any part of it. Strictly speaking, sati look like sometimes we call observing power. The full scope of mindfulness includes various aspects, particularly characteristic, function, manifestation, and proximate cause. Sati must be objective observation, but not subjective observation. Bare observer or bare observation is not interested observer. So sati is also a kind of bare observation or bare mindfulness. So in brief or in a nutshell, sati or mindfulness involves characteristic. It involves non-superficiality of awareness. Non-superficiality of awareness. This is the characteristic of sati or mindfulness. And then the function of sati is keeping the object in view, or sati come face to face with the object. This is the function of sati. And then we come to the manifestation, the patupatthana. The first one is protection the mind from attack by mental defilement or by kilesa. And also, when we talk about proximate cause, patthana means strong and steadfast perception. Sati is a kind of perception. Mindfulness is the cause of mindfulness. It's something like a momentum of sati. Mindfulness is the cause of mindfulness. And mindfulness is also another cause of mindfulness. It's going on and on like this. Sati or mindfulness must be dynamic and confrontational. Now we come to the hallmark of sati, particularly four foundation of mindfulness. When we talk about the four foundation of mindfulness, we mean we have to develop contemplation on the body that we call body mindfulness. And then we have to develop the contemplation on the feeling. Yeah. เวทนานุปัสสนาสติปัฏฐาน and then we have to develop mindfulness จิตานุปัสสนาสติปัฏฐาน and then the last one we have to be able to develop ธรรมานุปัสสนาสติปัฏฐาน Dhamma means mind object or mental object. Yeah, we have to develop mental object on the foundation of mindfulness. And then any time when we develop mindfulness of meditation, so we have to be able to develop อาตาปีสัมปชาโนสติมาอาตาปีสัมปชาโนสติมา The Buddha mentioned this in a very brief but very clear. It's mentioned in Taipitaka อาตาปีสัมปชาโนสติมา But you see, in practice, it's not like that. In practice, we start with อาตาปีViriya or effort, and then come with satima. Satima means sati or mindfulness. And then sampachano. Sampachano means sampachanya or clear comprehension. So in practice, we have to start with atapi or viriya, effort or ardor. Satima means sati or mindfulness. And then mindfulness is followed by sampachano, clear comprehension, or panya. Sampachano or panya, they are the same. Yeah. In the commentary, not mindfulness or satima alone, but mindfulness associated with concentration or samadhi. So when we develop sati or mindfulness, sati will be followed by samadhi or concentration. This concentration is essential for clear comprehension to arise. As I have already mentioned, clear comprehension means sampachano. Clear comprehension is the same as wisdom or panya. In fact, there is another factor that is sattha. Sattha means faith or confidence, which arose before the development of atapi or viriya effort. Satima, mindfulness, followed by samadhi, concentration, and the last one is wisdom, sampachano or clear comprehension. So in the practice of any kinds of meditation, no matter it is concentration meditation, samatha kammathan, or insight or vipassana meditation, vipassana kammathan, there are 5 components for meditation practice. We start with sattha, faith or confidence, followed by viriya, effort or ardor. And then viriya is followed by sati, mindfulness. Sati is followed by samadhi, and samadhi is followed by Panya. So there are the 5 order of meditation practice starting from Sattha, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, and Panya. So you have to understand all of these 5 components, okay, when you practice any kinds of meditation. Now I would like to mention a little bit about the concept of mind in Buddhist psychology. In Buddhism, particularly in Buddhist psychology, the mind is an English word of the Bali term citta. Usually we use citta. Citta means the mind. And the mind can be also translated as consciousness. Consciousness. And another term for citta or consciousness is vinyana. Vinyana. Vinyan or vijnana. However, the mind has a greater or wider scope than the word consciousness. We will talk about that later. What is the mind? Mind is a kind of nama, as I have already mentioned. It is the mental state or phenomenon that has the faculty of knowing an object. So we can say that the mind is something that has the faculty of knowing an object. When we talk about an object, we mean aramana. In Bali, arom or aramana mean the object. Okay. For example, when we see a boy or a girl is also the object. The object we call the object. We don't call a boy or a girl, we call the object, or even a tree. The tree, you can see different kinds of tree, okay, or any kinds of the table, the chair, so on and so forth. All of these things are called object or aramana. Aramana means external sense object, such as visible object. The sound may be a human sound, animal sound, or the sound from ringing, or any kinds of sound. A lot of sound. Smell the same, okay? Different kinds of smell, different kinds of odor, different kinds of taste. Yeah, sweet taste, bitter taste, hot taste. Yeah, and also sometimes we have different kinds of tangible object. Okay, and then we have different kinds of mind object, particularly about thinking. Sometimes we think about this, about that. Many things come to our mind, especially when we go to sleep. Many people develop insomnia. They have difficulty in sleeping. So they have to come to see the doctor to get the sleeping pill, so on and so forth. Okay. And another thing that you have to understand that the mind is a changing process. It's not static. It's subject to the process of changing all the time. The mind manifests itself into 2 levels, namely, the first one we call Vithi Citta, and the other one we call Bhavanka Citta, Vithi Citta and Bhavanka Citta. Now start with the first one, Vithi Citta. Sometimes I use the term active consciousness. Active consciousness. Vithi Citta is the active consciousness that can be compared to the concept of the conscious and the preconscious in psychoanalysis or in modern psychology. Vithi Chitta or mind manifests itself in the realm of awareness through the sixth sense organ. It is the state of having knowledge of oneself, one acts, and one reaction to the external surrounding. That is what we call Vithi Chitta. Vithi Chitta is the same as the concept of the conscious in modern psychology. So there are 6 kinds of Vithi Chitta. Okay, the first one, okay, we have the eye. So anytime when we see the visual object or the visual object, or something like a boy, a girl, the tree, okay, come into contact with your eye, there arise eye consciousness that we call Chakku Vinyan, eye consciousness. In the same manner, when the sound, any sound, a human sound, animal sound, or any kinds of sound, okay, come into contact with our ear, there arise ear consciousness. We call Sota Vinyana, Sota Vinyana. When the smell impinge on the nose, there arise nose consciousness. Nose consciousness means Khana Vinyana. When the taste, any taste, sour taste, bitter taste, come into contact with our tongue, there arise tongue consciousness. Tongue consciousness in Bali we call Shiuha Vinyana. Shiuha Vinyana. When the tangible object impinge on the body, there arise body consciousness or Kaya Vinyana. Like you see, we are now dressing and then we have to put on the shirt, the trouser, something like that. The shirt or the trouser come into contact with our body, with our skin. So at this point, there arise what we call body consciousness, Kaya Vinyana. When the mind object or mental object impinge upon the mind, there arise mind consciousness. There arise mind consciousness. So at this point, we have what we call Mano Vinyana. That we can think about other people, we can think about the temple, we can think about the monk, anything that come into the mind. So when the mental object or mind object impinge upon the mind, there arise Mano Vinyana or mind consciousness. Now we come to another kind of consciousness. This is what we call Bhavanka Citta. Bhavanka Citta. Bhavanka Citta is the hidden repository of impression and memory of thoughts, as well as other contents of which a person is not aware. Bhavanka Citta is similar to, but not identical with, the concept of the unconscious or the subconscious in Western psychology. It is wider and deeper in scope than the unconscious in modern psychology or psychoanalysis. Bhavanka Citta operates during sleep or when an individual becomes unconscious or unaware of oneself. This we call Bhavanka Citta. Pavankha has another term. This term is called life continuum. I think you have to remember this term. Life continuum is the same as the meaning of Pavankha. The main function of this unconscious mind is to preserve and to maintain any individual life. So we can survive, we can have life at the present time because of Pavankha. Without Pavankha, we cannot survive. Pavankha come from two words. Okay, Pavankha or Pava means existence. Plus Ankha means the factor. Pavankha means the factor of liveness, the factor of existence, the factor of being alive. Okay, as I have already mentioned, without Pavankha one cannot survive. In Mahayana Buddhism, they use the term Arya Vinyana. Arya Vinyana, it means the house of mind. The house of mind is the same as unconscious in Mahayana Buddhism. Vithi Citta and Pavankha Citta, the conscious and the unconscious. Pavankha Citta manifests itself during sleep and in a state of unconscious. Suppose you have a car accident, very suddenly, very strongly, you suddenly become unconscious. You are still alive, you are still living, but you are in a state of the unconscious. You don't know anything, okay? Yeah. And another thing that you have to remember, interestingly enough, Pavankha can occur between the present Vithi Citta and the next one, the next Vithi Citta. So between the present and the next Vithi Citta, there is a period that we call Pavankha. That is, Pavankha can arise within a very short period of time between one thought moment process to another one or another thought moment process. This is the brain, okay, the brain. You can see the green color, yeah, the green color. The green color we call reticular formation. Reticular formation is a part of the brain that cause awareness or alertness or even consciousness. So without reticular formation, we cannot be alert. We cannot develop what we call the consciousness, as I have already mentioned, okay? So in order to be alert, to be active, to be able to think about it, about that, to be able to do this, to do that. So you have to be able to develop what we call reticular formation, okay? So that we can be alert, we can be active, yeah, we can be able to do anything that we would like to do. Okay, this is a part of reticular formation. It's an ascending reticular activating system or reticular formation, an area of gray matter that extends from the spinal cord to the brain stem into part of the brain called diencephalon, which includes two major parts. One is we call thalamus, and the other one we call hypothalamus. The reticular formation influences the activity level of cerebral cortex. That is, it influences the organism general level of alertness or level of consciousness. It is also related to sleep-wake cycle. The absence of reticular formation produce stupor or coma. So we become unconscious at that time because no impulse form reticular formation to stimulate us. Now we come to the part of the heart. We will talk about this later. Yeah. Now we come to the brain, and then it's not so clear, but I would like to mention that there are 4 major lobes of the brain. Okay, on the right side, it belongs to what we call the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe, yeah, the frontal lobe is related to our thinking, judgment, executive function, so on and so forth. And then we come to another part around the middle of the brain. Around the middle of the brain, we have 2 parts. One is parietal lobe, and then another part also parietal lobe to the high part. The frontal part of parietal lobe deal with motor movement such as walking, okay, shouting, sitting, looking up, okay, walking, so on and so forth. And then the high part of the parietal lobe deal with different kinds of sensation, something like pain, itchy sensation, shrinking sensation, uncomfortable sensation, numbness sensation, so on and so forth. Yeah. And then we come with the high part, we call the back part of the brain we call occipital lobe. Occipital lobe is the high part of the brain. Occipital lobe deal with the process of vision. We are able to see something. We are able to recognize something because of the function of the occipital lobe. And then on the side of the brain, there are one part we call thalamus, thalamus, and also temporal lobe, thalamus and temporal lobe. Thalamus is not a part of the lobe, but it inside the brain. The thalamus is working like a relay station. You see, there are different kinds of information to the brain. So they have to come to thalamus to relay for a while, and then these kinds of sensation will be sent to different parts of the brain for recognition. And then we also have on the right side and the left side of the brain we call temporal lobe. Temporal lobe deal with memory, particularly past memory, and also deal with hearing, deal with speech, and so on and so forth. Yeah, this is the general parts of the brain. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Now we come to different parts of the brain. So you can see the brain stem. The brain stem consists of midbrain, the pons, medulla oblongata, and also we have we call cerebellum, is a small brain or minor brain, deal with coordination with balance of the body. And you see reticular formation, okay? Yeah, it's come from the spinal cord to the brain. As I have already mentioned, it deals with alertness, wakefulness, and also it deals with the level of consciousness. And then we have the thalamus, yeah, as a relay station, okay, for different kinds of sensory information that come to the brain. And then below hypothalamus, we have what we call hypothalamus. Hypo means below. Both thalamus and hypothalamus called diencephalon, okay, diencephalon. Okay. And then we have midbrain prawn. It deal with the breathing, deal with the heart rate, okay. When we sleep, we have to be able to develop breathing in and breathing out. Or when we sleep, then the heart still beat on itself, okay. Yeah, because of the we call sinoatrial node. We will see about this later. Yeah. Now we come to this part. This part is very significant. Yeah, we will talk about it in more detail. This part we call limbic system. Limbic system consists of thalamus, hypothalamus, amygdala, and hippocampus. So you have to remember the four areas. Yeah. We will come back and talk about this in detail later. Okay, there we come to limbic system. Limbic system consists of thalamus, hypothalamus, amygdala, and hippocampus. Limbic system deal with emotional expression, fight and flight, reproduction, hunger, satiation, motivational responses, and memory, combined with prefrontal lobe, which deal with socialization and thinking processes, are called limbic cortex or the mental brain. Limbic cortex or the mental brain. So there are some questions. Where is the seat of the mind? Where is the seat of the mind? Where is the mind located? So most people think that the mind is located in the brain, or the seat of the mind is the brain, not the heart. Yeah, we will talk about this in more detail later. But at this point, I want you to know that limbic cortex or mental brain is related to what we call the mind. We can say that the limbic cortex or mental brain is the seat of the mind at the present moment. The limbic system, an example of interconnected nature or part of the central nervous system, is the limbic system, a ring of structure around the thalamus in the center of each cerebral hemisphere. The limbic system includes the hypothalamus, a portion of hypothalamus, the amygdala, which is involved in motivation and emotion, and hippocampus, which play a part in memory and emotion, particularly memory, short-term memory and long-term memory. All kinds of memory are collected in what we call a hippocampus. Limbic system also involve mammillary body and anterior thalamic nuclei, It consists of most of the component of emotional brain, with it evolved from smearing brain. So emotional brain are developed from the smearing brain, particularly for primitive animal, okay, like the snake, okay, something like that. So it has a smelling brain, more sensitive than emotional brain as compared with ordinary people. It has a variety of functions, including emotion, behavior learning, long-term, short-term memory, and affection. Now we come to the concept of unconscious a little bit. The unconscious is the memory executive center. It is located mainly in hippocampus and other center in the limbic system, which is usually called limbic cortex or limbic brain or mental brain. So that's why when we talk about the mind, where is the mind located in the brain? So we can say that the mind is located mainly in limbic cortex or mental brain. It also works with sensory system, mainly in temporal lobe and associated area to receive information. Second, limbic system is to express emotion and intention. Prefrontal lobe and related area are related for thought expression and action. Now we come to neuroplasticity. So you have to understand that the brain is not rigid, not hard, not strong, not static. On the contrary, the brain is dynamic and changeable. It's dynamic and changeable, not fixed, not 100% hard, okay? It's made up of so many neurons and connection. It is estimated of 100 billion neurons and making a total of some 100 trillion connection. Yeah. 100 billion neuron, 100 trillion connection. The adult brain retains much of the plasticity of the developing brain, including the power to repair damaged region, grow new neuron, to rezone region of the perform one task and to change the circuitry. So now we come to one neuron. This is the picture of the nerve cell. You can see, you see, the cell body. In this area, you can see the cell body contain the nucleus and most of the organelles. Yeah, you see nucleus and the cell body. And then you can see the dendrite. The dendrite is something like a fiber, okay? Yeah. The terminal part of the fiber we call terminal branches of dendrite. And then according to the fiber, we use the term axon. Axon means the something like the fiber of the neuron, the fiber of the neuron. And you can see something like the node that we call the node of Ranvier, the node of Ranvier. And then so the fiber is something that cover the fiber. The fiber we call axon. Something that cover the axon we call the sheet, myelin sheet, around the axon to protect the axon. Okay, from getting damaged, from anything, So, and then from the body, you can see the dendrite. Dendrite is a different fiber go into a different direction. Okay, the dendrite, Okay, and then okay, go another one. This is the nerve impulse. The nerve impulse. Okay, so when the neuron is stimulated to one point, it causes what we call action potential. The action potential, which includes depolarization and repolarization. Okay, and then it starts from arising, moving up to the spine, maintaining, going down the repolarization, and then come to the fourth point, resting state. It's something like the mind that consists of three components: arising, maintaining, and passing away. Arising, maintaining, and passing away. เกิดขึ้น ตั้งอยู่ ดับไป เกิดขึ้น ตั้งอยู่ ดับไป So action potential is very similar to the process of the action of the mind. Arising, maintaining, and passing away. Arising, maintaining, and passing away. Okay. Yeah, this is one neuron, you see. Yeah. The dendrite, and then axon, okay. Different dendrite, okay. The dendrite or cell body or of a neuron must be sufficiently stimulated to depolarize the membrane to it being fine level, or to be able to develop action potential. Yeah, this range you can see, okay, the action of depolarization and repolarization. So during the period of depolarization, sodium ion move into the cell. Sodium ion move into the cell, okay. This is what we call depolarization. And the other process is the opposite one. We call repolarization. Begin when sodium ion channel close and voltage activated potassium ion channel open. So when activated potassium ion channel open, it allows potassium ion to leave the cell, causing repolarization. Yeah, so the nerve impulse go from one point to another point. Is something like you have the action potential or electrochemical impulse that travel from neuron to neuron. It's going on and on like this, okay. Okay, this point is very important. So this one, the above is one neuron, and then below is another neuron. So in order for the nerve impulse to pass from one neuron to another neuron, they have to pass what we call synaptic transmission. Impulses are transmitted between neuron from one neuron to an effector of neurotransmitter. So you can see the space, okay, from one neuron above another neuron below. There is space we call synaptic cleft. Now, synaptic cleft is the space between the two neurons. So in order for the electrochemical neuron to pass from one neuron to another neuron, they have to use what we call neurotransmitter. Without neurotransmitter, the neural impulse cannot pass from one neuron to another neuron. So you can see here, above is the terminal neuron. The terminal neuron. Inside you can see the space. In the space you can see some kinds of particles, small particle. The space we call vesicle. And the vesicle contain different kinds of neurotransmitter. Something like dopamine neurotransmitter, serotonin neurotransmitter, epinephrine neurotransmitter, norepinephrine neurotransmitter, many neurotransmitter in the brain, okay? So when the impulse come at this point, at the synaptic crest, so the vesicle will be open. You can see the release of a neurotransmitter from the vesicle. Suppose it is a norepinephrine neurotransmitter. Norepinephrine will be released from the vesicle. And then this neurotransmitter come to another neuron, and another neuron, there is what we call receptor. Norepinephrine will catch with its own receptor. So after that, there will be a transmission of a neural impulse from one neuron to another neuron, okay, because of a neurotransmitter. If there is neurotransmitter, there will be no transmission of impulse from one neuron to another neuron, okay? That's why we call synaptic transmission. Impulses are transmitted between neurons from one neuron to an effector by neurotransmitter, such as epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, something like that. This is also another part of the brain to show some small area. That smell is also located in the temporal lobe. Taste is in the parietal lobe. Touch, pain, and sensation from the muscle and joints are presented in band across the top and side of the brain, where the frontal lobe meets the parietal lobe. Near the primary protection area are secondary protection, where the sensory information are processed further. We come to the main sensory area. Now we come to the eye. We can see something because of the eye. Suppose we see a tree, the tree. The tree is the object, okay? And the object come into contact with eye sensitivity. We call eye sensitivity. And then the eye has a different part particularly the last part we call retina. Retina is the light sensitive part of the eye, consisting of 10 layers in detail, but only 7 layers of the retina are related to the process of signal transduction. Ganglion cell layer in the last process of signal transduction. You can see the ganglion cell over here. Yeah, from the ganglion cell, you can see the optic nerve or optic cell, okay? And then the optic nerve come to part of the brain related to the process of vision. This part of the brain is called occipital lobe. Occipital lobe is related to the visual process. Ganglion cell layer is the last in the process of signal transduction. So you can see the ganglion layer, okay? Yeah. You can see rod and cone layer, but the last one is the ganglion layer, okay? The ganglion layer, later on it forms what we call optic nerve, yeah, that we use for seeing. Okay, yeah. Then you can see here ganglion layer, ganglion cell, okay? And then you can see optic nerve fiber. They form ganglion cell. There are optic nerve fiber. The optic nerve fiber, okay? Yeah. And then you can see rod cell and then cone cell, pigmented epithelium. In Buddhist scripture, จักขายาจตนะ mean จักขุบวกอายตนะ refer to the sentiment organ of the eye, which is known as จักขายาจตนะ จักขุปัสสาทะ จักขุปัสสาทะ is described to have a layer structure about 7 layers and organ where vision is initiated had the size of no bigger than the head of a louse. Yeah, I asked the ophthalmologist, where is the head of the owl as mentioned in the Buddhist scripture? He told me that it is what we call optic chiasma. Optic chiasma, yeah. The optic chiasma. And then it will send optic nerve or optic fiber to the visual cortex or visual lobe for visual processes. So interestingly enough, that you have to understand that Jakku Pasad or Jakku Pasatha. So when the light come into contact with Jakku Pasatha, Sota Vinyana will develop. Not Sota, Jakku Vinyana, excuse me, Jakku Vinyana. Vinyan that has the ability to see something, Jakku Pasatha will develop. Okay, yeah. Now that we come to the ear, yeah. You can see the auditory nerve, okay. You can see something like a ring, okay. We call semicircular canal, semicircular canal. Another one, please. Yeah, I want you to show this. Okay, inside semicircular canal, if we cut it, and then we will see inside of the semicircular canal, it will be like this. So you can see the hair cell, and then you can see the nerve cell. You can see the supporting cell. In Buddhist scripture, Sota Yatana is the sensitive part of the ear called Sota Pasatha. Sota Pasatha. This sensitive part is described to be located at a spot-shaped like finger with tiny hair inside. Finger-like structure, as I have already mentioned, you see, we call semicircular canal. It looks like the fingering structure. And when we open semicircular canal, you will see something like that. You will see the hair cell. Okay, the hair cell in the organ of corti are stimulated. It causes impulse of the cochlear nerve to the brain. Cochlear nerve to the brain. So you can see, the hair cell. That is a sensitive part of Sota Pasatha. And then the hair cell will cause the impulse to the brain so that we are able to hear something. So it means that when the impulse comes to the brain, it causes Sota Vinyana. So we can hear, we can understand something. Yeah. Okay, next one, please. Now we come to the nose. In the Buddhist scripture, Kana Yatana or Kaya Pasatha is located inside the nose at the spot shape like a goat hoof. So you can see the olfactory nerve. It looks like a goat hoof, yeah. And then there are also olfactory nerve to the brain so that we can smell something, different kinds of smell. So olfactory bulb and olfactory nerve, this part, it looks like a goat hoof. Yeah. Next one, please. Now we come to the tongue. The tongue, okay. So when the taste come into contact with Shilha Pasatha is described to be located on the tongue at a spot shaped like upper part of a torn lotus leaf. So the upper part of the tongue, you see, it looks like a torn lotus leaf. That is the place where there is a contact between the taste and the receptor along the tongue, and then so that we can develop Shilha Vinyana. Then we can understand different kinds of tastes, bitter taste, sour taste, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, you can see here, you can see different parts of the tongues related to different kinds of taste in the food that we eat. Yeah. Like Yeah, we might experience bitter taste, sour taste, sour taste, sweet taste. Particularly, sweet taste is situated at the apex of a tongue. The scent taste buds are most numerous on the tongue. Certain regions of the tongue respond more strongly than the other region to specific tastes. In fact, the region of taste are mixed together, but in some particular area, the taste particularly related to better is more prominent in the tip, particular to sweet area. You see, most of the taste bud related to sweet area are very prominent at the tip of the tongue. Okay, and then the second one is a salty taste. The third one is a sour taste, and the last one is a bitter taste. Is a rather inner. Okay. Now we come to the body. In the Buddhist scripture, Kaya Yatana, Kaya plus Ayatana, Kaya Yatana is Kaya Pasatha, Kaya Pasatha, Kaya Pasat, which is located spreadingly throughout the body, except the nail and the tongue, except the nail and the tongue. So, the nail and the tongue, there are no receptor. There are no Kaya Pasatha or Kaya Yatatana located, okay? Just only all the body, around the body, every part of the body, except the nail and the tongue, or except the nail and the hair. So now do we have a different receptor over the body or over the skin? So over the skin, there are different kinds of sensation. We call touch sensation. You can see touch sensation, pressure sensation, vibration sensation, temperature sensation, hot and cold sensation, pain sensation. Okay, you can see the different kinds of sensation. Yeah, hot and pressure sensation. You can see pain sensation. You can see free nerve sensation. You can see a light touch or pressure sensation from different kinds of receptor over the skin. Okay, now we come to different part. And another part of the organ, which is the heart. The heart. I would like to mention a little bit more about the heart because it is very important. You see, in this figure, you can see the picture of the heart, and you can see the heart is divided into 4 chambers. You can see the upper two chamber, okay, upper two chamber, and the lower two chamber, much bigger than the 2 upper chamber. The right upper chamber we call the right atrium. Okay, the right lower chamber we call right ventricle. The left upper chamber we call left ventricle, and then the left lower chamber we call left ventricle. Left ventricle. The significant parts of the heart we call Hataya Watu. It is to be described as located in the hollow around the site of Punnaka seed. Punnaka seed, you see, that is the site of Punnaka seed, where a handful of blood is kept. The delimitation of the Hataya Watu is also bound by what belongs to the heart. Okay. Come back to the heart again. Yeah, because we left by to talk about it. Okay, now we will see the heart. Yes. Hataya Watu. Where is Hataya Watu located? It is located in the right atrium. You see, in the right atrium we call right chamber. We have a pacemaker we call SA node. SA node means sinoatrial node. Sinoatrial node. Okay, it is a pacemaker. It works on its own automatically. So we have a pumping of the heart. We also have the movement of the heart. Okay, because of sinoatrial node. And in this cavity, it's about the size of Punnaka seed. It has a handful of blood, in this area. And this handful of blood we call Hataya Watu, particularly in the right atrium. And then from the right atrium, the blood will be sent to lower chamber, to the right ventricle, okay, to the right ventricle. And then from the right ventricle, the blood in this area will be sent to the lung. These are the lung, near the heart to the lung. Yeah. And then from the lung to the left ventricle, okay, left ventricle. And then from the left ventricle, the lung will send the blood to left, not the left, from the lung to the left atrium, and then from the left atrium to the left ventricle. And then the left ventricle will send the blood to different parts of the body, including both leg, both lung, to the brain, something like that. So the blood in the Hataya Watu is not completely pure. Not completely pure. It is deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood. It has already been used by different parts of the body, particularly both leg, both hand, brain, different organ, okay, the liver, the lung, so on and so forth, or including the kidney, okay. So they are not pure blood. It is deoxygenated blood, probably small amount of essential nutrients. And then when the blood is sent to the right ventricle, the right ventricle will send the blood to the lung for oxygenation, So when the blood is sent to the lung, the blood will get oxygenation, including other essential nutrients from the lung. So at this point, the lung will become very pure, very active, very energetic. And then the blood from the lung will be sent to the left atrium. And from the left atrium, the blood will be sent to the left ventricle, left lower chamber. And then from the left lower chamber, it will be sent to different parts of the body, including both legs, both hands, including particularly the brain, different kinds of organ, the heart, the lung itself, and liver, kidney, so on and so forth. At this point, the blood will become very pure. And when we talk about Hataya Vatu, let us spend a little bit talking about Hataya Vatu. I think I have sent the paper to you. You can take a look at the Hataya Vatu. The quality of pure blood, incidentally, what found in the heart is not found anywhere else in the body. Hence, the book means Abhidhamma book, Abhidhamma book, refer to the heart base as that material, things or quality, based on which my elements, mano dhatu, my consciousness element, mano vinyana dhatu, are functioning. The things or quality that is related as a base or vatu, both to the heart and to the pure blood found therein, are also to the mental concomitant or cetasika that are associated with consciousness. It is the physical heart itself was intended to be the heart base or hataya vatu, particularly in the right atrium as I just mentioned. It would have been quite easy for the founder of the Abhidhamma to have used the word heart instead of saying that material things or rupa. If he believed that the physical heart itself to be the physical base on which the mind functions, Patthana, in another book in Abhidhamma, made this clear in these words. Yang rupang nisaya mano dhatu cha mano vinyana dhatu cha vattanta tang rupang mano dhatu cha mano vinyana dhatu cha tang sampayutta kang cha thammanang นิสยปัจจยเยนะปัจจโย The emphasis here too being on that thing or material quality, and also this heart base, hataya vatu, incidentally is Kammachalupa. Kammachalupa means it's a kind of a corporeality produced by action because it arises at the time of conception, patisonti, together with body decade and sex decade, depending upon karma or past action. Karma, therefore, as we see, give one person a strong heart and another person a weak heart. So strong heart and weak heart depends on Kammacharupa, past karma. We might, however, mention here that the heart base, Hataya Vatu, is not mentioned in Dhammasankani, apart in Abhidhamma Pattatha Sankaha, perhaps for two reasons. One, to avoid seeming contradiction that might arise in fuller elucidation of the Abhidhamma, where it is explained that I consciousness have their I themselves as respective such-spot. Absolutely. Whereas my consciousness does not in the same way have the heartbeat, Hataya Vatu, as its support. Absolutely. Secondly, because of an academic controversy that prevailed at the times of the Buddha as to what actually constitutes the heart base. For in that time too, it is today among medical men, the popular view was the same as cardiac theory. But in Patthana, another book in the Buddha, in discussing several bases, Vatu, refer to the heart base in this word, Vatu kusala nang kantanang nisayaปัจจย เยนะ ปัจจโย วัตถุอากุสาเลนะกันทนังนิสยปัจจย เยนะ ปัจจโย with when translated mean that the heart base is the base on which the arising of wholesome kusala and unwholesome akusala state of consciousness depend. For here, in this passage, what to refer only to the heart base or hataya vatu, not to the eye base, not to the ear base, not to the nose base, not to the tongue base, not to the contact base, okay, tactile base. These five bases of vatu are the brain-made matter that do not generate what we call wholesome kusala or unwholesome akusala deed. Their functions are merely to reflect the object aramana as contact arise in the base vatu, much in the brain that a mirror does. It does not clearly understood, therefore, that the five bases of vatu and the brain matter, which are merely the means to an end, are not associated with wholesome kusala and unwholesome kusala state of consciousness. They merely receive the object of sense. It is the association of heartbeat, hataya vatu, that cause generating wholesome kusala and unwholesome kusala state of consciousness. Perhaps this explains why we hear people say Blessed are the pure in the heart, they shall see the God. So I will try to mention very briefly that when we talk Hataya Vatu, so in the commentary, they talk about the heart. The heart must have a fresh blood. Fresh blood means the oxygenated blood plus essential nutrients. It's a very healthy blood, healthy heart. Both of them belong to Hataya Vatu. But in fact, as I have already mentioned, you see, the pure heart is also contained in the right atrium and the right ventricle. So after they get oxygenated blood and other essential nutrients from the lung, and then after that, the blood in the right ventricle will be sent to the right ventricle, and then from the right ventricle will be sent to different parts of the body. Okay, and only this part after oxygenation from the lung, then it will become a pure active blood. Okay, this is what we call Hataya Vatu. And then we talk Hataya Vatu, we call heart base. We call heart base. There are two base, heart base and mind base. They are different. This is somewhat complicated. So you have different kinds of vinyana. So when you see something that you see come into contact with your eye, particularly Jakku Pasatha, right? Jakku Vinyana. In the same manner, when you hear something, the sound come into contact with your Sota Pasatha, there arise Sota Vinyana. In the same manner, so when you taste something, like or when you smell something, okay, like you see good odor come into contact with Kana Pasatha, and then there arise Kana Vinyana. In the same manner, you experience the different kinds of taste. Something like sweet taste come into contact with the tongue receptor or the tongue Pasatha. There arise the tongue being the Shivha consciousness. And then the last one, when you think about something, like you think about the house, the temple, or anything that comes into your mind, you develop what we call Mano Vinyana. Mano Vinyana. So there are different five base. Seeing, you can see you have eye base. Hearing, you have ear base. Smelling, you have nose base. Tasting, you have tongue base. Seeing, thinking, particular thinking, you have Vinyana base or mind base. Vinyana base or mind base, we call the unconscious. The unconscious is the base of Vinyana base, not Hataya Vatu. Hataya Vatu is only the heart base, not the same as Vijnana base. So Hatha Vatu will occur only there is stimulation at the heart, particularly at the left atrium. Okay, the left atrium, and then so when there is stimulation at this area, there will arise two things: wholesome consciousness and unwholesome consciousness. Wholesome consciousness means kusala citta, kusala cit. Unwholesome akusala citta, good mind and bad mind. So Hatha Vatu or heart base is related to both wholesome mind and unwholesome mind, kusala cit, akusala cit. Just only this base we call heart base or Hatha Vatu. And then the Hatha Vatu is the location for two kinds of mind. One kind we call Mano Dhatu. Mano Dhatu is a one group of mind we call Mano Dhatu. Mano Dhatu is this group of mind is situated at Hatha Vatu, heart base. And then another group of mind we call Mano Vijnana Dhatu. Mano Vijnana Dhatu is also situated at the heart base, Hatha Vatu, not the mind base, at Mano Vijnana Dhatu. Okay, yeah. So you have to see the difference. It's rather complicated. I know that, but I just want to know that sometimes we have to understand this. Yeah. Otherwise, we will get a lot of confusion. Okay, let us go on. Yeah. Now we come to change in the brain structure and activity during meditation. We start with the default mode network. While we are doing something, there are brain regions that are highly activated or even active than those engaged during a difficult cognitive task, such as 100 minus 7. We have to do a serial arithmetic calculation. 100 minus 7. It goes on and on like this. Okay, yeah. On the contrary, while we are working at a mental challenge like serial subtraction of 100 minus 7, this brain region go quiet or deactivation. Where are all these neurons chatting back and forth while we are doing nothing in particular? Default mode network is the brain circuitry to note connection in the limbic system. While brain engaged in active work, whether mathematical calculation or when we do meditation, default mode network calm down. Okay, and then the mind start to function again when the mental task finish. Yeah. So it means that sometimes when we do nothing, we just lie down, not thinking anything. The brain still active. It works on their own. This kinds of functioning of the brain we call default mode network. When we do nothing, We think the mind stop, the brain stop thinking too. In fact, it is not so. The minds go on thinking on their own. We call default mode network DWN. As I mentioned first, while we are doing nothing, their brain regions that are highly activated. Even when we just do little calculation, 100 minus 7, the brain will be activated from this one. Suppose we do nothing and not activate the mind at all, the wave will become what we call default mode network. Yeah. Next one, please. This solves that problem of how the brain could maintain its activity while nothing was going on or doing nothing, period. So doing nothing, period, the mind still function on its own. So this kinds of activity in the brain, we call default mode network. Default mode network consists of median prefrontal cortex or medial prefrontal cortex and posterior cingulate cortex. The two areas, midline prefrontal cortex or medial prefrontal cortex, are very significant and in combination with posterior cingulate cortex. They are the main parts of default mode network. PCC means posterior cingulate cortex, interface between us and the outside world by gauging personal and emotional importance of stimuli, while the medial prefrontal cortex is where the information interface with consciousness. The cortical midline structure, or CMS, are found on the inner surface of each hemisphere. Excuse me. Crucially, center midline structure are part of network of brain region known as default mode networks that become active when we do nothing or when we don't do any particular task, and when our mind are wandering, thinking about this, about that, so on and so forth. Okay, so when the mind is wandering, so the mind is related to default mode network. One theory is that medial prefrontal cortex is a hub of the conceptual self, like I am Mr. A, I am Dr. Jamlong Disyawanit, whereas the posterior cingulate cortex is experienced kind of clenching or tight stamp that links the concept of self. So in another word, medial pre-context usually is related to oneself, ourselves, like I am Mr. B, I am Dr. Jamlong Disyawanit, whereas another part of the media, the default mode network we call posterior cingulate cortex, is related to clenching or attachment, or desires, okay, that links with conceptual self. Posterior cingulate cortex create the experience of being caught up in our thought, feeling, sensation, which correspond closely to the Buddhist concept of craving or attachment, clinging, grasping, attachment, tanha, upathan. Tanha means clinging, upathan means attachment. Both clinging and attachment are related to the posterior cingulate cortex, PCC. PCC, posterior cingulate cortex, may play an important role in drug addiction, cigarette smoking, or any kinds of drug dependent. Okay, the particularly drug addiction, or even cigarette smoking, or even coffee addiction, something like that. Mindfulness meditation can tone down the activity of posterior cingulate cortex in reducing nicotine craving in smoker who would like to quit, or even in the mild degree of drug addiction. We can use mindfulness meditation to reduce these kinds of craving or attachment. Brain scan of experience meditation suggests the mindfulness meditation inhibit the activity of the default mode network, particularly in the posterior cingulate cortex. So this part is very significant, okay? So when practice any kind of meditation, particularly insight or vipassana meditation, insight or vipassana meditation tend to inhibit activity of the default mode network, particularly in the posterior cingulate cortex. As I have mentioned, this part of the brain is related to tanha, upathan, grasping, attachment, tanha, upathan. Mindfulness meditation can also boost activity in the prefrontal region of the brain involved in decision making and emotional control, including dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. This part of area is very significant. You have to remember DRPFC, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Sometimes we call executive function. So executive function is related to what we call dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And also this part of the brain also related to orbital frontal cortex and also part of anterior cingulate cortex, ACC. In addicted individual, those same areas are known as to cause malfunction, impairing power of self-control. Meditation may help counter this image. Meditation may help counter this image in the default mode network, particularly in the medial prefrontal cortex and also posterior cingulate cortex. Brewer and his team, in their experiment, Christian and Buddhist contemplative lay-in scanner by using MRI, we call functional magnetic resonance imaging, functional MRI, and watch the scan displaying change in the activity of the posterior cingulate cortex. They can see the chain of activity in the posterior cingulate cortex that are related with clenching, attachment, tanha upathan, we can see the change in this area from moment to moment as they meditate. So meditation can change this area of the brain, including posterior cingulate cortex. They are able to train the research how different mental states affected the graph at a particular moment. For example, when they experience contentment, undistracted awareness, effortless doing, the graph show falling of PCC, posterior cingulate cortex activity, whereas feeling of discomfort, distraction, and efforting correspond to increased activity in the posterior cingulate cortex. The experienced meditator quickly learn how to control the graph at will by using their mind. Medial prefrontal cortex, posterior cingulate cortex, and other part of corticomyxin structure are activated not only when we think about ourselves, but also when we intuit or when we think about the intention and belief of other people. And this kind of experience known as mentalizing or theory of mind, mentalizing or mentalization or theory of mind. They drew upon long-term bibliographical memory encoded and stored in the memory load. So it tends to reactivate the memory in the temporal lobe. I have already mentioned that temporal lobe is involved with encoding and retrieving short-term and long-term memory. So there are many things in the past that are collected in the temporal lobe. So when we do like this, when we do mindfulness meditation, sometimes we can think about the past experience. Mindfulness meditation appears to reduce self-referential thinking by decreasing activity in the medial prefrontal cortex and posterior cingulate cortex, which are integral components of the DMN, dorsal prefrontal cortex. Okay, yeah. Okay, let us stop at this point now. It's nearly 11, so we have to stop particularly for the monk. They have to eat around this time, so we have to stop at this point and come back together again at 1 p.m. this afternoon. Okay, yeah, come back, and we will start to give a lecture again at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you ท่านอาจารย์ขอบคุณท่านอาจารย์มากเลยครับโอเคครับ
ครับอาจารย์เห็นคำถาม2-3คำถามเอาไว้ตอบช่วงบ่ายก็ได้เนาะอาจารย์เนาะ
ครับ อย่างนั้นเดี๋ยวระหว่างที่พักเนี่ยเตรียมคำถามไว้ด้วยนะฮะเตรียมคำถามอาจจะมี you have to prepare any question any comment any concern so that when we start this afternoon that I can answer some question some concern that you may have or you may have your own comment. Okay, yeah, okay, get together again this afternoon at 1 p.m.
ครับขออนุญาตปิดซูมไว้ก่อนนะครับอาจารย์